the most common one for us growing up was they are going out, they are all dressed up, and they tell you to go inside and wear your shoe.
Wear your shoe.
And before
Before
oh my God, they are gone. A very pleasant day to you wherever you're watching us from. You're welcome back to another episode of LR Talks. I am Jade, and of course, I'll be your host on the show today. Today on the table, we have a very important topic to talk about, and our topic today is the influence of childhood on adult relationships. To take us in a conversation on this topic, I have a very esteemed guest, a very beautiful guest, with me in the studio today, and I would allow her to do the honors of introducing herself to us. Good day, ma'am.
Good day.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very fine, thank you. So I'd like you to please introduce yourself to our viewers at home.
All right. My name is Abimbola Adegoke. I'm an event planner. I design. I sing. What else do? I do a bit of talking, and so I'm here to talk.
So like she said, she's here to talk, and we're going to have a very delightful conversation on how your childhood can actually affect your adult relationships. So to kickstart, I'd like you to, just briefly tell us about how growing up was for you, how, your childhood was growing up till this stage that you are now.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a long story if I have to share, but then I'll just share a bit.
Okay.
So I'm number two from the family of four.
Okay.
So, no, sorry, six.
Six.
Yeah, from the family
Wow.
of six. My mom, my dad, then I have three other siblings.
Siblings.
We're all girls. So, so I had quite an interesting, childhood experiences. I till date I still have some glimpses that flashes
Through your
my
mind.
and all that of what my childhood was like. Yeah, so I grew up in a very simple home, simple background. My parents they are retired teachers now, so went to school early, come back home, do your homework, just basically what every child of a teacher in that sense
Yes.
would do. Yeah. So it was amazing growing up with three other sisters, the fights, the love, the playing,
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. So I had a good childhood, growing up. Yeah.
Growing up. That's very nice. That's very good to hear. So you spoke about your parents, and in that light, I'd actually like us to talk about the parental roles in, growth and all of that. We cannot push it aside because the children came through the parents.
Yeah, that's right.
And I believe that each and every one of us are a product of one or two things we have actually learned from our parents.
Yeah.
And so I'd just like us to discuss very briefly on how, parents play a very important role in a child's growth, and how that the things that a child learns from their parents, they can, grow with it and bring it into their adult relationships and all of that. Because we found ourselves in this generation, especially, is one that picks up things very quickly. You don't have to tell us directly. We just need to watch you do things and all of that. And I feel like parents are like the first role model for their kids and all of that. So I just want to hear your view on that, your experience personally, how your parents were and how you grew up with your parents, basically.
Okay. So there was something you said about we learn one or two things
from our parents.
I don't think it's one or two things. I think we learn everything. I think we learn a lot from our parents, because really, whatever we have become today,
yes,
there is a significant amount of contribution that our parents made to who we are today, right? So for a start, right, parenting is a process, that involves it's a process of raising, of caring for a child from birth till they become adults.
Yeah.
So parenting is really deep and it's really everything. Parenting, a lot falls and rises on parenting, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So for me, I have a mom who is kind of strict.
Okay.
But then I have a dad who is not so strict, but of course, they were retired. I mean, they're retired teachers. So my mom would dish out instructions, and of course you have to
You have
follow
to
them,
follow the instructions.
because that's the kind of person she is. My dad is, I don't even have a memory like that, of a remembrance of my dad ever beat me or anything like that. Then I
Wow.
know my mom, if she calls you and
And you
you
did
didn't
not
answer on time,
answer.
and she all of those things, yeah. So parenting is deep, actually, because for me, I feel like a child learns everything to a very large extent from the parents. So if a parent is, there are different parenting styles. And
Yes.
sometimes people might not even know it, but one way or the other, people pick from maybe this style and that style. For example, maybe authoritarian, and helicopter. There are all of those
Yes.
names: authoritative, holistic parenting style. So they're quite kind of a lot of parenting styles. So parent picks different parent pick different styles of parenting, unconsciously or consciously.
Yeah.
There are parents who are schooled in different kind of parenting styles, and so they're intentional about, okay, I want to blend this, take this maybe authoritarian, and take holistic,
Holistic.
and take, just speak it like that. There are parents who are intentional about that, and there are parents who they don't even know about all of these styles. They just parent
Yeah.
as they were, brought up.
Brought up.
Exactly. So I think that the effect of childhood on adulthood, right, is it goes a long way. Where who we are today, in a very in a very greater, sorry, where who we are today because of what we learned from our parents while we were young, the
Yes.
things we saw our parents
Do.
do, the what our experiences was like childhood growing up, right? It contributes to what we had today. So for me, I would say that the influence is really great, right? We can't overrule the fact that you take a lot of things from your parents, right?
Parents.
So if your parents, if you grew up with with a parent that they were kind, the way they speak, that child is most likely going to be someone that is kind growing up, when
Yeah.
speaking to other people. If children grow up with parents that were so hungry, would lash out at any opportunity.
They got.
Exactly. So they would also become that kind of person. So you wonder sometimes when you come across people, you meet people, and then you're wondering, why is this person so angry?
There are some
Before
of
you
the
say,
issues that come from how they were
exactly,
brought up and
exactly. It's
all.
just sometimes you don't even know. It's because that was how they were raised, right? That's
Mm.
for the past, maybe for like they were with their parents for like say 16, 17, 18 years, and
Yes.
they see their
Broken.
parents do these things every day. You don't expect them to change in in the think of an eye, right? Because they've
Yes.
learned that growing up. So I think that the influence is really great.
Great. That's really nice. I hope you're learning one or two things already. And speaking of the influence and all, I believe that everything that goes on around the child counts as an experience.
Yes.
And I want us to consider some of the things that could happen to a child as regards experience. So we could have a scene where there's the absence of one of the parents or both of the parents. We could have scenes where probably the father abused the mother. We could have different scenarios. We could have experiences where probably the parents are alive, but
Okay.
they just choose to neglect the child and all of that. So children have to grow up in different situations and circumstances with different things
No one gets to
surrounding
choose their
them.
parents. Sorry to cut you.
Exactly. No one gets to choose their parent. For me, I grew up in a home where I never saw my parents fight.
Oh wow.
I never saw my parents fight.
That's
So it was it's so it's registered in my memory, in my subconscious somewhere, that if your parents did not fight, then you cannot fight with your spouse. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
But these experiences are things that actually make individuals.
yes.
Because I have seen life situations where even young children, you just see that a young boy raises his hand against a girl in school, and when you look at it very deeply and try to get to the root of it, you realize that probably his dad beats his mom at home and all of that. So children act based on what they see, and I feel like pictures stick better than even the words that, because a parent can say do this and not do it. Do as I do, do as I mean, do as I say, don't do as I do, and all of that. So I want us to talk about how these experiences could actually like build into who a person becomes. Because some of the issues that arise from this are trust issues. You see people grow up with trust issues. You can't tell them stuff. They're like, what do you want? They feel like you want to get something from them for something you tell them or for something you do to them. You know, let's even leave the societal issues that come out of all of these things, all of these experiences that someone has had to face when they were younger and all of that. So I just want to hear your opinion on how experience as the situations, the occurrences around a child could like grow into their individual as an adult.
Okay, all right, thank you. So there's this adage that everybody says it. Charity begins at
At
home,
home.
right? The meaning of charity is actually love.
Yes.
But sometimes we say it, everybody just keeps saying it and all that. But yeah, it's actually the truth, right? If a child grows up in a home that the parents love each other, just like you said that you never saw your parent fight, there is actually a very high probability that that child, right, will grow up to give love to people everywhere he or she goes, because the child's upbringing was filled with love.
Yes.
It's the same way that, I said earlier that, right, that whatsoever we had today, a lot of the experiences we had growing up contributed to who we had today.
Yeah.
So if I see a person, and that's why I'm somebody who believes that it's okay to extend grace to people when you meet people, because really, you don't know what they've gone through in life. Their experiences have shaped them, have formed them, have formed them, right, to become who they are today. So when you meet somebody and the person is just hungry, you're wondering, why is this person always angry, right? It's because the person's childhood experiences. Maybe the person's grew up in a place where they will shout, the mom and the dad will shout, and all of those things. So really, I believe that the things we went through growing up has formed a very crucial part of us, right?
Yes.
It has formed who we become. I mean, who we have become over the years.
Yes.
So, there was something you talked about. You talked about trust issues, right?
Yes.
A lot of adults right now would have trust issues because, let me use a very simple scenario, and I'm sure that everybody, even though we're adults now, we still do them unconsciously.
Yeah.
So maybe the dad is going out, or maybe the mom is going out, and the mom says, so if you behave well, if you listen to your dad, or maybe you listen to your mom, or you listen to the adult in the house, I'll make sure that I buy bobo for you. It used to be bobo.
Yes.
Yes. So I'll buy bobo for you. And then the child with, just with the thought of, let me behave myself. Just and properly. Let me act well. Let me not disturb auntie and mommy. And, let me just do what mommy said I should do. Because when mommy is coming, mommy will give me bobo. Mommy will bring bobo because I acted well. And then the mom comes, and then the child is expectant, right? That I behaved well. So there's a reward for me behaving well. The reward is bobo. And then the mom comes back home. Oh, the mom didn't come with bobo.
The most common one for us growing up was the one where they say, they are going out, they are all dressed up, and they tell you to go inside and wear your shoes.
Wear your shoes.
I mean,
before you're
oh
back.
my God, they are gone.
Exactly. So you see, all of those things might look like they don't make sense, right?
Yeah.
Adults, you feel like, I just didn't want to go with you. That's why I asked, I don't want to go with that child. That's why I asked him to go back inside, or I forgot the bobo, or why do I need to buy the bobo, right? But you see, those things, they're actually doing something to a child. They're actually destroying the capacity of the child to trust, to believe that mommy said it, right?
And she's going to do
exactly,
it.
to believe that mommy told me to go in and pick my shoes, right? And let me go back. But then the child comes back, you're no longer there, right?
I think we actually went through a lot of these things. In fact, there are some of us that went through, mommy collects money from you.
Exactly.
I said, let me keep it for you. I'll give you back. And then when you ask, she's like, all the things that I've been buying for you since all these days, and all the food you've been eating and all of that. So those things could actually develop into
all
trust
those
issues.
Things, right? That's like an example. I just shared an example.
Yeah.
Those things really forms who a child, right, grows up to be. If the child would have trust issues growing up, knowing that I can't trust anybody because they say A, and then what I see next is B.
Is B.
So yeah.
That's very insightful,
Thank
and I'm
you.
sure that you can relate to the things you are
Yeah.
talking about. So, still on the place in the place of experience and all of that, due to some of the experiences that children have, aside some of these things that we've discussed already, the way some parents treat their children have caused these children to there are two extremes to it. Is either they become very self-centered and egotistic,
Yeah.
or they become people with very low self-esteem. And it's like you said, parenting is very, very crucial. And if the balance is not gotten, I feel like a lot of things can go wrong. Because let's say from the perspective of pampering and indulgence, some parents give their children everything,
Yeah.
even things that they can say no to, things that they can deny them of to teach them one or two lessons, they do not. And so when those people grow up to be adults, because they have grown up in an environment where they literally get everything they have ever wanted, they feel like the outside world should be the same way, and whatever they demand is supposed to be theirs. Those people turn out to be self-centered. Those people turn out to be, they are people that they are part of people that give our society a lot of problems. And then there's the other extreme where the child is not treated well. Probably the child is neglected. I've seen situations where the child is abused, and this individual grows up to be someone with very low self-esteem, cannot relate with people well, does not even want to be around people, and all of those things. And they're still all as a result, all these issues are still as a result of experiences and all of that. So there's, like I said, there's the place of striking a balance. And if the balance is not gotten, a lot of things can go wrong. So I just want your opinion on the place of, those two extremes, the low self-esteem part and then the pride part, the part where they just want to be up there, everything they want has to be their way and all of that.
Okay. So children who get everything they want, once they want it, the time they want it. One of the issues they really have is delayed gratification as they grow up, right? So they don't want to hear no. Even if it's not good for them at that particular time, they just want it and they just want it. And for children who were treated badly, like you said, right, and now they're adults now, one of the things, most likely, I think children who are treated badly, it's they're not able to give love because they didn't receive love. And so for me, I think the balance it still lies in parenting, right? It lies on the parent. I think if parents would be intentional to see that it's like two extremes, right? I must make sure that I train this child in a way that this child receives love, and also in a way that this child understands that I can't always have everything that I want. In that sense, like sometimes the road can be slippery, or maybe not slippery is the word. Like
Can be
our
rough.
Nigeria road. Thank you. We have their potholes here and there,
Yes.
and then the child growing up with that two extremes of so much love, where the parent shows the child love. The child knows that I am loved,
Yes.
right? Come rain, come sun, come, I am loved.
Yeah.
And the child also knows that even though, yes, my mom loves me, my dad loves me, I cannot always have everything at my pace, the way I want, and everything like that. So I think having that understanding for a parent would help raise a balanced child. But now, the reason why we don't really have children who understands that they are loved, adults, right, who are able to give love, balanced adults, right? It's actually because maybe the parents raised them one way, and then the parents, didn't show this aspect of raising them, wasn't really strong in that sense. For example, I know we live in a world right now where spanking is fading away.
Yeah.
Right? You go to schools now, and then my sister worked in Montessori school, and if Montessori is also part of a style in parenting style.
Parenting style.
Yes. So and then you can't spank the child. You can't if the child says no, it's no. Right? You can't force I understand that using force is not necessary in raising a child.
Yes.
But then there are sometimes we are Africans, right? Our culture, it's different kind of from the way the whites will raise their children,
Yep.
right? But then I think that a lot of the way the whites raise their children as sort of come into the way we raise
Yeah,
our
we've
children now.
adopted
Exactly,
them
yes, we've
already.
adopted them. And so we now feel like I can't spank my child, right? I must not spank this child, even if what the child did is
Is
wrong.
wrong.
All I have to keep saying, keep doing is showing the child love, and love will cover everything. But I'm sorry, love does not, in that sense, right? Even love, if at spanking a child,
Is
out
a show of love.
Yes. Do you understand? Letting a child know that you're wrong, right? It's a proof of love that, see, I love you. I don't want you to go in this direction, because this direction that you're going, what you have just done,
Yeah.
the end of this this action is destruction, right? For example, maybe a child unnecessarily lashes out. You know, sometimes actually a child might not have seen his or her parent lash out, but maybe, you know, from school,
Yeah.
from environment and
We're
all
still
that.
going to get to the environment part.
Yes, exactly. So
Eventually.
maybe the child that speaks that, and then the child comes home and then exhibits some of those characters that, or attributes, or those virtues that you don't have in the house, right? You haven't, you haven't shown the child that kind of behavior before. It's okay to correct the child. It's okay to let the child know that we don't do this in this house. But then parents now are being, you know, they'll say maybe we don't have to spank them, we don't have to correct them, just let them be and all that. And then so what will eventually happen raising children like that is that we'll have children who grow up, just like you have said earlier, and then there are just so many aspects of their life that is not balanced, just here and there, just distorted kind of life, because all they knew growing up was one side and the other side wasn't there. So yeah, so as much as I believe that children should be raised with love, I believe that children should also be raised with instructions, right? You should also put them in the right direction, and instructions help put them in the right directions. I don't know if I hope I captured your thoughts.
I think in one of our previous shoots we were talking about the whole parenting thing, and we had to establish the fact that the Bible says that you should train your child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not. It is certain that he will not depart from it. I think we're learning one or two things from here, to be very honest. So moving on, I'd like you to elaborate and expatiate on the matter of environment and how the environment can affect, you know, the child's adult relationships.
Okay. So environment is also a very crucial part of our childhood experiences, right? The friends we make, the uncles and the aunties and the
around us.
Yeah, even where we live, right? So let's craft an analogy, right? So imagine a child who lived in Banana Island.
Yes.
And a child who lived in Mushi.
Mushi people, sorry.
So sorry. So sorry. But really, I'm just trying to, want us to look at that. It's like two extremes, right?
Yes.
So the child that lived in Banana Island probably, went to the best of the schools, good food, good relationship, the aunties and the uncles, maybe they don't even live in Nigeria, hi auntie, FaceTime and all of those things, right? And a child who grew up in Mushi that,
it's a mix of Ketsu.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Maybe they don't even have food to eat on some nights, I go to that go to Yashikira and go and collect Gary, tell her I'll pay her next week. Do you understand? Now, the child who grew up in Lekki or Banana Island most likely grew up with the mindset of abundance. I have it all, right? I don't lack anything. All I need to do is tell mommy and daddy that I need this thing. It's sorted.
And they get it.
Right? But a child who grew up in Mushin will probably think twice that this one I have to also, to eat and all that. So really, that kind of child will most likely have a scarcity mindset, knowing that it's scarce to get money. I have to work for money. I have to do this. I have to do that, right? I have to also to live a good life. So now imagine those two adults, right? Those two children who grow up to be adults. Of course, they have different mindsets. And so the way they relate with people, the way they operate will be totally different, right? The one who grew up with scarcity mindset might be so clingy to their money, so this 1,000 naira, I cannot give anybody out of this money. Or
Yeah.
maybe they even now, went to the university. They might, maybe, and they have roommates, right? They might not be able to share things because they just feel like they have a scarcity mindset. They feel like this thing can finish at any
At
time and
any
I will have to go and start
time.
sourcing, start looking for where to get it. But a child will grow up in Lekki and knows that, or Banana and knows that, I have everything. The child has not even had one day of thinking, where will my food come
Come
from?
from.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's two different people, right? So that's the impact of our environment. Another thing about environment is a child will grow up in Banana Island, for example, or Lekki or USA, right? What they see every day, it will more like, I'm trying to link it to their creativity, right? What you see every day, actually, growing up, even adult, what you see, it has impact on your creativity. Imagine you wake up and you see donks, you see on tarred road, you see everywhere is messy. It's something it does to the mindset, right? So you're definitely going to have two different mindsets, amidst those people. So the environment we have, the uncles we interact with, the aunties that we interact with, the friends that we have, where we live, all of those things, they definitely have impact on our childhood. It has influence on who we end up becoming. The attributes, the characters that we develop, that we show, right?
Yeah.
Environment has a lot to do
A
with
lot
that.
to do with that. Speaking of attitude and characters, and the two environments that we have picked as case studies, I feel like the person who grew up on the island, for example, grew up in a serene environment where everything is probably peaceful and everyone is just driving their cars into their homes, everyone is minding their business. And then the other mushy guy has probably grown up with a group of violent people, is very eager to see fights and all of those things. And those things are part of what contributes to our societal issues and all of that.
Yeah. You hardly see on a norm, right? You hardly see a child who grew up on the island, grow up and raise their voice. Are you mad on the way? And all of those things. But a person who grew up, when you wake up, say, what wakes you up is
broke
when you
bottle.
hear something. You see, understand? Yeah, all of those things, they really do have impact. Great impact.
I think this has been insightful so far. So before we, call it a wrap, I'd like us to talk about remodeling, rebirthing, rebranding, because some people have had, negative experiences. They've grown up with negative mindsets. They are adults who have some very not so good flaws and all of those things. And then there's supposed to be like a coming out of it, becoming a better person. What's your opinion on it?
Okay.
Actually,
all right. Thank you for that question. I think it's a very valid one. There's this adage they say in Yoruba that "Tomba biyon, eyan man tun ra bi," right?
That is to say, if they born you, you reborn yourself.
So really, we don't get to choose our families. We don't get to choose our mom and our dad. I'm sure if everybody, you have the option, or you have to say when you're coming from heaven, choose
your parents.
Who do you want your dad to be? I'm sure that a lot of people would, pick some specific people, but then we don't have that choice. So we're here. Now that we're here, right? And then we've seen the families that we have. There's a need for us, if there are things that we see, right, and we don't like them, we have the power to change them. Now, one of the issues that we even have as regards parenting is because parents who maybe grew up didn't like what they saw, didn't like how they were parented in that sense, didn't like how they were brought up, how they grew up. But they decided not to change, right? They also pass the same thing down to their children. So it's like you're passing the baton, you're passing
cycle.
Yes. So I'm of the opinion that if there's something in your life that you don't like, you have the power to change it. And so, for example, if I found out that I'm trying to look for a very good example, maybe selfish, right? Because of maybe my childhood, I don't like to share things because I grew up in a home that we didn't have enough to eat. I didn't grow up in a home like that, but I'm using that as an example, right? So now, and I'm growing, I'm seeing that I don't like this life. I don't want my children to have this kind of life. What do I do, right? I take what I feel is bad, and I looked at, okay, so what is a positive thing that I can use to change this thing. So if I'm selfish, right, it means I don't want to give, I don't want to share. So now,
Yes.
if I want to change that, what do? I basically tell myself, right, I position myself in, to give. I start giving.
Yeah.
By giving, I am breaking something. I am breaking the stronghold of being selfish. I am breaking the stronghold of scarcity, that scarcity mindset that I have, that this thing, it can finish anytime. I'm actually breaking that, right? If I'm somebody that gets angry easily, or somebody who lashes out, insults people, can say, 1,000 words the second by just insulting and all that. And I looked at it, I'm like, this is not a good attribute. This is not a good character, right? This is not
Yeah.
a good virtue. What do I do, right? So I watch how I speak. I train
I
myself
think it even
to
takes identifying that thing
exactly.
as
Thank
a
you. I think that's
problem.
the first thing, right? So identify that there's something lacking here. And I don't want
Yes.
to pass this down to my children. I don't want to raise children who will insult other people, who would lash out at any point in
Yes.
time. And I see those attributes in myself. What do I do? What I need to do is to identify them, just like you have said, and then I deal with them one by one.
Yeah.
Honestly, if individuals will deal with the weaknesses that we have, to a very large extent, we'll have a better world. Because we'll have better parents who are intentional, right? Parents who can say, for example, maybe people grew up in a home that their parents, there's this mindset that parents can never be wrong.
Mm.
But
Mm.
it doesn't work like that. That's not the truth. That's not 100% correct, right? Parents can be wrong. And so if you grew up with a parent who never for one day said sorry,
Sorry to you.
even though the parent is wrong, but they felt like, I cannot be wrong. I'm always right. You're the one that you're wrong.
It's
And you
wrong.
see that. And so sometimes that kind of child can grow up to see that I don't have to say sorry.
Mm.
I'm always right. You are all the one that is, the other person is the wrong person. Me, I'm always right. So what can that kind of child, what can they do, right? That kind of adult, rather.
Adults.
What can they do, right? They can make sure that they're intentional about saying sorry. It's about identifying the words. You identify that this is a gap. This is something that I don't like. I don't want to pass it on. I identify it and I deal with them one after the other. That's how to remodel. That's how to become a better person. It's to look at those things that, they might be like strongholds, because over the years, you're used to them. You grew up like 16, 18 years insulting people, 16, 18 years being selfish, being arrogant, being, you don't care about other people. It's just you and you. What do you do basically? Is that you identify those things and you decide that I want to deal with them. I think that's the very first thing to identify.
Identify.
I want to deal with this thing because I want to become a better person. I want to become a better parent, right? I don't want my children having the same attribute that I have currently. And then I deal with them. That's how to remodel.
So it is first identifying it and then being intentional.
Yes.
And then the mindset actually matters a whole lot. Although I feel like it's not going to be a very easy road for anybody, because someone who has trust issues, they don't just wake up one night and start trusting people the next day and all of that. So it takes a lot of effort to actually bring these things to positivity from negativity.
That's right.
This has been a really insightful session. So I would like to ask, is there anything you have to tell adults who are, going through the remodeling phase? I think that's what we'll call it.
Okay. I think I'd like to tell them to be kind to themselves. Be kind to yourself, right? You didn't choose where you were born. You didn't choose who gave birth to you. You didn't choose the environment you had to live with. Your parents made those choices for you, right? Because it's the same way the choices that we make now, we're making it not just for ourselves, but our children also will reap the effects of the choices that we make now. So I would say be kind to yourself. It's okay to take it one day at a time until you get to that perfect picture that you have in your mind. Of course, you need to have a picture of this is who I want to be, right? I want to be a person who gives love. I want to be a person who trusts people. I want to be a person who gives and without expecting back. I want to be a person who receives, right? Because I know that some people even have issues with receiving. They believe that if I'm receiving something from you, and there has to be something I have to give back. Because of what the childhood has been like, right? So I think, like I said, be kind to yourself. Take it one day at a time. Make your choices carefully, knowing that the choices you make today, right? They have effect, lasting impact on another generation, on your generations. Yeah. Thank you.
I must say this has been very insightful. so far. And, one thing I'd like each and every one of us to know is we are all products of what our childhood was like, the things we saw around us, the environment we grew up in, and it is not any of our fault because we did not choose to be in such environments or such families. And it is very important that we take intentional steps to, overcome the negativity and, make sure that our generations don't have to suffer the same things we did. And to the Moshi people that received the bans, we are sorry. To the K2 people, we apologize. We just, needed case studies, and that was the best we could do. And to Miss Pimbo here, we say a very big thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, ma'am. If you have not subscribed to our channel, this is the right time to click the subscribe button. Like this video, drop a comment, and don't forget to share. My name is Jade, and I will see you on the next episode of LR Talks. Bye.
Bye.